Welcome to Pain to Purpose, the podcast where we transform our pain into power, peace, and purpose. I'm Sarah, your hope dealer, inspirational guide, and the storyteller in this podcast. Each week, we dive into inspirational stories of overcoming grief, custody battles, and trauma. Together, we'll foster transformation, resilience, and claim your personal responsibility for your story. Our stories offer hope, encouragement, and community support, guiding you toward better health and wellness. Join me as we discover actionable ways to leverage our struggles, find healing, and rise like a phoenix. Tune in to uncover your purpose, embrace mental health, and serve others, all while finding the strength to keep going. And so, fast forward a few months, I filed a federal lawsuit all on my own again. I sued the judge, I sued the court clerks, the attorneys, and I knew what they were doing was completely against any of the Constitution, against, our God-given rights, and I filed a federal lawsuit. They did not like that very much.
Right. So here you are, this person who has no formal background in this, has no training, and you have decided that you're going to put the screws to them. What were you thinking? Like what I mean that takes some stones. Like to be in that position of because so many people back down, right? And they feel like they're outclassed, they're outgunned. I mean, for you to, again, it's quite remarkable for you to be able to say, no, I'm gonna take a stand for something and move through all of those reasons, all of the logical, justifiable reasons of here's all the reasons why I shouldn't do this. And it was almost as if you didn't care about any of that. It's like, yeah, all that's true, and I don't care. I'm just gonna I'm doing what I'm doing here. And so now you're taking them to you're filing a federal suit against them.
Yeah, I guess it was brave, courageous. I know we've talked about this, like I wanted justice. Like I was tired of being bullied around by this system that could care less about my child, could care less about safety. And I was like, no, like you're not going to do this. Like when you don't mess with Mama Bear. I'm a fierce Mama Bear. Like you're messing with the
Mm,
wrong woman. And
mm,
I showed that to them. I went to a lot of work writing this federal lawsuit, like not easy. Let me tell you, not easy. I had to serve it to six, I think it was, I don't know, it was a lot of people, 16 some people, maybe even 18. I had to find people to serve it to them. Like I went through a lot of trouble to do it just because I believed in the principle, like this is not just for me and my son. If I can win this, it sends a message to everybody else out there who's going through the same damn thing.
mhm,
And I wanted our, like, collectively, I wanted our children to be raised in healed, healthy environments and stop infringing on our rights. And so it was a, I guess, altruistic. It was a higher purpose in doing that federal lawsuit. It wasn't just about,
mhm.
me of, the injustices that I perceived to be happening. It was on a global scale of like, wow, this is happening all across
Mhm.
the states, the world, for that matter. Like, I'm going to take the system on. And I took it on by myself, which, looking back, probably wasn't a smart move.
Well, that is an interesting pattern, though, right? Because like when you launched your business, it wasn't just about you. It was I'm going to employ single moms that need the support, and so you do seem to have uh, a service minded framework for things that mean something to you. The single mom thing, the recognizing that this court thing is not just about you. There's a bigger opportunity here to make a difference in the world. I mean, that's an incredible framework when somebody is coming from survival. Like normally when people do something like this, they're in a much more stable, solid place. Like I want to save the world kind of thing comes from a very stable place, not from I'm on the verge of dying and every single day. Um, Like you did so much more with so much less than other people have done with more, you know? I mean, really, that's you did a whole lot more with fewer resources than a lot of people would with a lot more resources. And that's truly remarkable. So now you have a federal case, and you know that we have we have a legal system, not a justice system. So so what happens at that point? And you still have the business running.
Still have the business running. I'm still also dealing with the custody, local case. So now I'm dealing with two
Mhm.
courts, a federal court and a local court, because yeah, when you're in survival, why not pile more on?
Right. Let's see how
How much
much
more
more
can we?
I can shoulder here. How can I make more burden? Let's
Um,
All right.
oh, and it was also Christmas time, and I did Christmas cards. So, like we have to get Christmas cards out. And so
Right.
I'm also like being a dedicated, devoted mother to my son during all of this, to the best of my ability while writing and filing and going through all the hoops. Let me just tell you, going through all the hoops in a federal lawsuit when you're not an attorney, that alone for one person who's not a single mother in survival mode is insane, let alone the situation I was in.
Mm.
So that was December of 2021. The following month, January 2022, the judge on my civil custody case recused himself. um, and when I learned a lot about law and
I
the
bet.
just the different motions to file and just everything. And so they brought on another judge. Well, he recused himself too. So now we have two judges recused. Very interesting. Again, they knew I was onto something. They did not like it. And opposing counsel was really pissed.
So was it the judges that didn't want to get wrapped up in this because that was going to get them into some kind of trouble, or what? Like what? Why did they recuse themselves?
There is no reason given. My intuition says that they knew that they're going to be in hot water. They did not want to be exposed for the crimes that they are committing on a daily basis, which all judges across our country are. They are trafficking children left and right. And so he didn't want to be a part of it. That's my intuition. I don't know the real reason, but that's just what I make up.
Okay. So now you have the second judge recuse themselves,
So
and then
then a
what
third
happens?
judge gets on the case. Meanwhile, opposing counsel, I had my address protected under the state statute. It's called the ACP. It's Address Confidentiality Program. And when you are a victim of DV, you can have your address in most states. I think it's, I don't know, in most states, there's a few that don't have it, but you can have your address protected. And opposing counsel and my ex were hot after, I mean, they were vicious after my physical address. It was creepy. He already had hired private investigators to follow me around. That was brought up in the previous trial. So I knew I wasn't safe. I mean, I still always kind of slept with one eye open. Like, who was tracking us? Who was following us? I had my head on a swivel. Like, my survival was top notch. I'm still kind of coming down from that, to be honest. After years
Mm.
of just like who is out to kill me, who's just going to kidnap my son. And so she actually filed with the state subpoena ducas tecum to reveal this confidential file with a lot of sensitive information. And the state program didn't want to litigate it, and so they turned my file over to them. So the third judge got on the case. We had a hearing. I think it was February 9th, 2022. I argued, of course, everything's on Zoom. I argued jurisdiction, and I had a couple court watchers, and they were like, I have never heard somebody argue jurisdiction. There's a lot of types of jurisdiction. They said, I have never heard someone argue so articulately the way you did.
Hmm.
And so I really wanted them to dismiss the case based on all of the evidence that I had, just the evidence of this is true law. This is not the legal system. This is like actual based in law.
And you have no background or history in that industry.
None whatsoever. No, my background's in organic farming, baking, motherhood, running, keeping a home, like a homemaker. Yeah, no, I have no background in the legal field whatsoever. Do I now? A little bit.
Right. Now, have you thought about becoming an attorney? Like, let me just pause here for a second. Have you thought about getting into the law? I mean, it seems like you have a knack for it.
So many people have asked me that. I know, no, the schooling, the years of schooling, and I'm not the best at test. Like, uh, taking the LSAT. I don't know. I think my purpose is really something different in terms of law. So maybe not having an actual, law degree per se, but in
Okay. Because it sounds like a whole Aaron Brockovich thing unfolding here. Like, it's wild.
I probably could. I just, I mean, I could add a lot of things to my resume. I guess maybe.
That's impressive. Okay, so you're going through the custody battle. You've got the local case, you've got the federal case, you've got your kid, and you've got your business. Then what?
Well, like I said, life was going to
Life wasn't done yet.
life was not done kicking me.
Okay.
Yeah, like having one hurricane. No, we're gonna have a tsunami. We're gonna have a volcano. Like we're gonna throw it all on her because I guess she can take it. And so the hearing was February 9th, 2022. And I'm kind of stalling because the next couple of parts that are coming up are still quite raw, even though it's been a couple of years.
Mm.
And so the judge at that point, this is the third new judge, knew nothing about the case, just came on the case, totally green, very young judge to begin with as well. Kind of a hot shot. Like he knew what was happening. He was going to teach Sarah a lesson. That was the attitude. And
What was that all about? I mean, that sounds personal.
what do you mean?
Like, well, you said like what made you think he wanted to teach you a lesson, so to speak?
Just based on his vibe and how
Like he's trying to make a name for himself or something?
correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really had no interest in the dignity of the case. Just I'm going to do whatever I want, whether it's right or right. So he took the case under advisement, which again is not a legal thing, but they do it all the time. And it's basically just a stall tactic. They go talk to some other judges, which all judges are just previous attorneys. That's all they are. They're not special people. I still have some anger over this legal system. And he made a ruling that the following weekend, February 17th, that my ex would have an extended visit with my son, bumping him up from like 3 hours to 4 days straight. And I'm like, this child doesn't even know who this person is. Like, what are we doing? And so February 17th rolls around, February 17th, 2022. And my son River is still 3. He hasn't his birthday's not until April. And we were supposed to meet at the sheriff's station at 8 a.m. Well, River doesn't even get up till like 9. So I knew it was going to be a contentious exchange. I had 2 witnesses, and I texted my witnesses and I said, hey, River's still sleeping. Please let my ex know we're going to be there. We're going to be en route. And so River gets up. I get him ready. We get in the car, and we're on our way to the visit exchange. And was in contact with my witnesses, and they're like, your ex just like literally is exploding. He is going off. Like there was like another police report happening. He was out of his mind. And I'm just like, how am I supposed to hand a child over to him? But I had to.
So he's losing his mind, and there's police reports, and he has custody rights for the weekend.
Correct. And so I show up at the sheriff's station to do the exchange, and nobody's there. My ex left. The witnesses went back to their place, and I called. There was no communication between me and my ex. And so I called the witnesses, and I'm like, where is everybody? And they're like, oh, he said he was going to call his attorney and they're going to handle it. And I was like, what the fuck does that mean? Well, I was about to find out. So I took River to open gym. I took him to his ski lesson the next morning, Friday morning. And I was like, maybe I should check my court email. I had a dedicated court email that was only on my laptop as a boundary. I couldn't have it on my phone. I would go into severe panic attacks. Pretty bad. Mm-hmm. And so I logged on to my court email, and there was an ex parte for sole legal and physical custody. This is February 18th, 2022. And I started shaking.
So a couple days after you're supposed to give your ex custody for a couple of days, you get an email that says sole custody has been awarded to the father.
Correct. Which it's these ex partes, which ex parte motions and orders are very common in high narcissistic type individuals. This is particularly in fathers. This is what they do to mothers. It's just what now that I've been in this field of work, I guess, or I don't know what you want to call it. Like, they do ex partes all the time, and they're against your rights. There's like, they just, the judge just signs it, or typically they don't sign it because they know it's against your rights because the other party hasn't had a chance to present their side of the story. And okay. So they literally like stole my child on paper behind my back with no evidence, with the affidavit, the declaration that my ex wrote was just so full of lies. There was an ex parte has to be extreme emergency. Like the mother's on drugs and is, stoned and, like on the side of the road, like a true emergency. Literally the only emergency they alleged was I failed to show up to the exchange, which is totally false. I showed up, he left. Like, it makes no sense. You're the one who chose to leave. Like,
so he set it up like he wasn't there and then claimed that you were the one not there.
Correct.
And then used that as some kind of emergent thing to file the ex parte notice to get awarded custody.
Yeah, and even the police report I pulled, from that morning, there's not one indication that River is ever in danger. There's no documentation that River was in danger to warrant an emergency thing. It literally was just like, we're just going to do this. And that's what they did. And so I was like, my goal is to keep River safe. You can't, keep River safe, 1, and then 2, you're not going to do this to another mother, another human. This is happening all the time. I'm going to stand up for my rights. Like an ex parte is against all of my rights. And so I chose to keep River safe. And so we went to another safe house in the middle of the night. And that was also just a terrifying time. We literally left with the clothes on our back again. I was
So you just jumped in the car, grab your clothes, jumped in the car, and steal away in the middle of the night,
Yep,
kind of
it
thing.
was literally in the middle of the night. I had a bakery. I had a bakery
Wow.
order that afternoon. I had cake decorating bags with icing, and cupcakes were on the counter. It literally looked like somebody just died. I mean, the house, like, just, we left, I left everything.
Wow. Where'd you go?
For legal reasons, I'm not gonna say on this
Okay.
podcast, but
Okay.
it was, you know, it was a safe place. I had some, you know, friends helping us out, just trying to, again, you
Okay.
know, get, get stable doesn't even sound right. I mean, I've been in crisis now at that point, you know, 4 years.
Hmm.
And so I'm still continuing to just, you know, try to get my feet underneath of me. And the following week, we had a hearing for this ex parte, and I argued of, like, there's no emergency. The evidence that they presented is completely false. They have no evidence to even support their claim. There
You had a hearing. There was like a hearing on
you
this.
have to have a hearing. Yeah, you have to have a hearing.
Okay, so it was like a
It
week
was a week
later.
later. Yep.
Okay.
And at that point, um,
And you're hiding this whole time basically, so they don't know where you are
correct.
physically.
We
Okay.
are undercover. Yeah, we were undercover, and I didn't sleep. I mean, I was at my lowest weight I had been in a while. I mean, I'm not big to begin with, but I was not eating. I mean, the stress of, you know, having your baby, just, you
Hmm.
know, again, just, this had been going on for years, and actually to, you know, have an order signed, it was the most terrifying thing I've ever experienced.
So you go in, you argue. There's nothing substantiated here. This is all made up crap, and they don't have anything to support what they're saying. So what
And
happens?
so they had nothing to support, and so opposing counsel goes, I order this court to order Sarah to either return the child, as if my child is just a suitcase, just a piece of luggage, just you know, an object.
Mm.
Uh,
Well, I love the way they phrase that. Return the child. It's like the child was never taken. Like the custody was like you had custody and he had visitation. So it's curious phrasing.
yeah, I order Sarah to return the child, but on, you know, this hearing was on Thursday, and they wanted me to come appear at this courthouse and um, turn over the child to CPS and law enforcement. And if she doesn't,
What?
and if she
Okay.
doesn't, we're going to file for default judgment.
Wow. Okay. So now, and the court approves this. They say yes, you have to do this.
The court says this is the order we are going to make. If you don't return the child Monday, you know, whatever date that was, by I think 12 noon, we're going to file, the default judgment will be entered.
The default being dad gets
Dad gets
custody.
full, whatever, at that point. I didn't, yes, dad would get full custody, whatever that. So at that point, the attorney can write whatever they want into this default order. Anything they can write, anything they.
So what happens if you turn the child over to them as ordered? Like the custody battle continues, or like
If I
what
would have
happens?
returned River, I don't even know how I would have done that, but yes, if I would have returned River to the courthouse, we would have had
Hmm.
a custody trial. At that point, it was scheduled for the end of March.
But you didn't
I
do
did not
that.
do that.
So what happened?
Yeah, I mean,
What'd you do?
biologically, a mother, I don't think, can just turn her offspring just to strangers. Is just not. It's just not in biologic. It's not in her nature to do that. The inhumaneness of opposing counsel on this case. is just horrific. To do this to a mother and a child, like this is a little boy that has only lived with his mom his entire life, in a safe, healthy environment. And so that's still hard to reconcile. And so I continued to be undercover, and the default judgment was entered. I think, was it like the order was, I think, signed March 7th, 2022, giving him full custody. I paid child support. What's really interesting is that they had him claim my son on the previous year tax returns, even though he never lived with him. Okay, perfect.
Right.
Yep, we'll just.
Where would your son have been had you turned the child over as ordered, and then you had a couple of weeks or something until the custody hearing?
Well,
Is that right?
yeah, and things always get pushed back. So, but at that point, yeah, the custody
Yeah.
hearing would have been, yeah, in like six-ish weeks. I guess it was.
Where would your son have been for those
He
6
would have been
weeks?
with my ex.
Okay. So even though that's outside the scope of the the visitation as it was structured, it was you got to turn your kid over, and then the kid's going to be with dad for the next 6 weeks, and then you're going to go to trial. But you decided, nope, not happening, and you stayed in hiding,
I
and the judgment gets entered. So now, legally speaking, dad has full legal custody.
Yes, full legal custody. Yeah, and I just continued to hold the line. I was, reaching out to continuous legal people to try to appeal this. Again, this default judgment, there was no trial, there was no hearing, there was no witnesses, there was no evidence. It was just literally like, but this is the other thing that opposing counsel said at that hearing, and Sarah won't bend her knee. I will never forget those words. I still am in shock, like a legal professional. And this is when I knew it was not, when she said that, I knew this was not about custody. This was about beating me into pulp. We're going to teach Sarah a lesson, and she's going to bend her knee, and we're going to force her to do it.
So do you think, like as it stands now, do you think you made the right decision by not turning over the child for those 6 weeks? Like, I guess, would you do the same thing again?
Thank you so much for listening to the Pain to Purpose podcast. If you got something out of today's episode, please take a screenshot and share it on social media with your takeaway. Don't forget to tag us at Hope Rose Speaks. Have a beautiful day.